We watched a dust storm come up like the Red Sea closing in on the Israel children. And I'm telling you, it got so black when that thing hit, we all run into the house. And a lot of people in the crowd that was religious-minded, and they was up pretty well on the scriptures, and they said, well, boys, girls, friends, and relatives, this is the end. This is the end of the world.
This was a 10-year apocalypse that I don't think we can fully appreciate because we tend to pigeonhole stuff in American history and say, oh, this is the grapes of wrath, you know, boom, done. It's much more complicated than that. And the story of the human beings that survived this 10-year apocalypse is one of the most moving and one of the most dramatic stories I think we've ever come across. This project was born 2 decades ago. Dayton Duncan wrote a marvelous book called Miles from Nowhere, in which he visited many of the least populated counties, some of which are in no man's land, what became the Dust Bowl.
I met a number of people who told me these incredible stories about the dust being so bad that they would huddle in the shacks of their homes with claws over their face. And they were just incredible stories, both in terms of an environmental story, of human folly, but also of human courage and suffering and perseverance. So that got me interested in it at first, and then a lot of other things, you know, intervened, other films, other stories. But it was always on the list of films that I was hoping that Ken and I would get around to doing.
It's the testimony of more than 24 human beings who lived through it, who survived the greatest man-made catastrophe, environmental catastrophe in American history, superimposed over the greatest economic cataclysm in world history, the Great Depression.
First of all, this was a 10-year drought, so that was a longer than normal drought. It just didn't let up. It just started and kept on going. It was a harmonic convergence of bad things, of a badder than usual drought, hotter than usual temperatures, and more soil exposed for the first time than ever before in history, due to both bad farming practices and, you know, human nature, thinking that they could make a quick buck. And all those things combined to make it just hell on earth.
All the birds, everything was flying south. We could see this thing rolling in. And my brother told me he thought the end of the world was coming. Well, of course, that scared me half to death, and I wasn't so sure about it.
We've been working on this project now for several years. I still can't fully comprehend what it must have been like to be in one of these black blizzards. Towering mountain ranges coming at you more than a mile high, sometimes 200 miles wide, that could blot out the sun and make it inky black during the day, where you couldn't even see 3 or 4 feet in front of you, that there was not a safe place from the dust.
If it was one that was blowing more of a sand blow, as they were sometimes called, that would be closer to the ground, and these grains of sand, people would say, could strip the paint off of your car. Obviously, if you were out there and exposed to it, it could hurt like hell when it hit you. If you went inside, newspapers sold special gum tape to put around the edges of your windows and under your doors and other things to try to keep this dust from getting in. Nothing worked entirely.
Before these storms happen, there's an incredible phenomenon that builds up a lot of energy, a kind of static charge.
I can remember feeling it in my hair. It just kind of like your head tingles or something, you know. Your hair just kind of wiry.
If you reach out to touch a car, the electricity will jump out about 6 inches to meet you and knock you right flat on your butt.
It would short out the electrical system, the radio, other functions of the car, and so people took to dragging chains behind them just to ground automobiles.
It was tough times. It was really, really tough times. We didn't know what the devil was going to happen next.
It seems to me as if we were all just suddenly picked up and deposited back into the Old Testament Egypt with the Israelite people, as Woody Guthrie would say, that there were plagues of jackrabbits because nature had become so unbalanced, that there were plagues of locusts that afflicted these people. It wasn't just the dust storms, as if that wasn't enough for 10 years, that you had the poverty of the Depression, that people are trying to get out, people are starving. This has got to be a cataclysm that we don't just see as an environmental parable, which it is, but as a human story, a human drama, in some ways unequaled in this tiny, forgotten part of this glorious continent.